Let's drill down on today's big rally in the cyber stocks. Joining us now is Andrew Nowinski, Senior Equity Analyst at Wells Fargo. Andrew, great to have you with us. When we think about possible Russian cyber attacks, what sorts of attacks are they most likely to mount, and which companies are best positioned for those specific kinds of attacks?
Hi, Melissa. Thank you very much for having me back again. So you're absolutely right. I think we definitely will see more cyber attacks in the U.S. as well as other impacted countries. So far, we've seen over 70 government agency websites from the Ukrainian government taken down by denial of service attacks over the last week. I think we'll also see a number of attacks such as email phishing attacks, and worse yet, which I think everyone is really worried about, is the zero-day threats or zero-day malware and ransomware attacks that will likely come next. Now, what the best positioned companies in the cyberspace to really sadly benefit from the expected onslaught of cyber attacks would be Crowdstrike, Palo Alto, and actually Cloudflare, I think, stands to benefit from a lot of the DDoS attacks that we've seen so far.
Andrew, we've tried to make a case for these names for a while. The pushback we get all the time is valuations people can't wrap their head around. I think collectively we've tried to make the point that at least in this group, valuation is not as important as some other groups. Is that a logical argument?
Yeah, Guy, thanks for the question. I mean, it certainly is a logical argument. It's hard to, really forecast the impact of how much additional spending you'll get and how much growth you can get out of these companies. But if you look at like a Palo Alto trading about 15 times EV to sales, that's a company that should be trading, or a stock that should be trading, well north of 20 times EV to sales. And they are the single best positioned vendor to stop a ransomware attack. There's no better platform out there that can stop the most sophisticated attacks. And then you look at like a Palo Alto trading about 9 times EV to sales, 25 times EV to free cash flow. Another just really well-positioned company to stop not only ransomware attacks, but also as more companies move to that zero trust platform, they've got the ability, they've got the network, the endpoint, as well as the threat intelligence layered in to really stop those sophisticated attacks. And that's that integration of all these assets is really what companies need to stop the most sophisticated attacks. Trading at just 9 times EV to sales, this is another one we think should really trade in the perhaps the low teens, providing a lot more upside to where it's currently at. Cloudflare is a little more difficult because it is one of the most expensive stocks in software right now, well over 30 times EV to sales, but they have the single best platform for stopping these DDoS attacks that we're seeing. I think the biggest one we've seen so far has been about a 2 terabyte per second attack, and they're very easy to launch. Cloudflare can absorb 100 terabyte per second attack and not even notice it. So if you move your website to Cloudflare's network, it's safe. It's not going down. Your business will continue. So there's really, it is difficult to convince someone that there's a lot more upside on the multiple side, but the numbers and the estimates are certainly going higher.
Last quick question, Andrew, and that is, when an attack is already, underway, which company gets called first? So who will benefit from cleaning it up as opposed to preventing?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of incident response firms out there that you would call to. I think one of your next guests are Kevin Mandia with Mandia. It certainly is one of the best in class incident response firms that are out there for responding to these breaches. CrowdStrike also has as good of an incident response firm. And then in Palo Alto, same thing. They acquired a company for incident response purposes as well. So you look at like a CrowdStrike and a Palo Alto, where they have the best-in-class products to defend against attack. If you are attacked, they can also respond and clean up those breaches as well. So you sort of get the benefit of both scenarios with those stocks.
Andrew, great to speak with you. Thank you. Andrew Nowinski.
Thank you.
Pete, where do you stand on this trade?
Yeah, you know, I agree with the panel and everybody talking about this, and I know they've been talking about this for a long time. You look at the multiples, it's really difficult, Mel, even if they have any kind of a multiple. But I'm looking at Crowdstrike, for instance, and today we did have options getting bought in there. And so I tagged along because they were buying the upside calls that expire on Friday. They were buying the 200 strike calls while the stock was trading at about 189. But what I like about this trade is it was down towards 150. It was much higher when it was at its highs just in the last year or so. So I think there's upside there. And I think it's a trade that can be put on based upon the fact that we know there's going to be demand. We know they're going to be pushing. And at some point in time, maybe all of these different names that are in the cybersecurity space will start to see that actual PE show up as a PE that's palatable for all of us. But for right now, I would just do it with options. That gives you the best risk reward. And that's why I bought those calls today in Crowdstrike.
Guy, you have you tweeted about Palo Alto today. You've been following the space for a long time.
Yeah, and I think collectively we've been talking about this. New all-time high today. Again, you know, people get wrapped up in valuations, especially obviously over the last few months when valuation has been a concern for everything. I think the point we've been trying to make is that you shouldn't really be all that focused on valuation in this space, which is why I asked the question. You know, in terms of CrowdStrike, I think Pete makes a good point. This stock is not at a new all-time high. As a matter of fact, it's significantly lower than that 298.48 level we saw a few months ago. Not that that means anything necessarily, but I think you might get some bang for your buck. I'll throw another name in there just because why not, is Zscaler, which has also sold off significantly since its all-time high. That might be worth a play for a bounce here as well.